Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Developing a Proper Worldview. This is episode number 85. We're currently in the midst of part 6 of our series, which I've titled New World Order. The titles are really, I guess it's not my strong suit is naming these sections. It's because they all kind of bleed together. So, I mean, the whole thing is about the New World Order system. It's about this the beast system, the antichrist system, world government that's being formed around us. And so every section kind of it could fit in other sections. I mean, some of them are aimed at specific things like the creation evolution. We're gonna look at some other things I can't mention because this part's going to be on YouTube, but the occult foundations, things like that. They're a little bit more specific. But when you're looking at the American Empire, martial law, and the New World Order system, they all kind of mix together. They're interchangeable. I tried to put this in an order that makes sense, that's logical, that's easy to follow, and somewhat the same path that I took when I was learning these things. But so if you get confused at the title New World Order, just disregard it. We're in part 6 of a long series of videos that we have going. We're looking at Terror Storm, which is a Jones documentary. And I was thinking going into this, some documentaries that I have, they're kind of, well, they're either boring, they're just like textual information, like just basically like reading a college textbook on the subject, or they're poorly made, either lack of creativity or lack of budget is probably more often the case. And so I try to avoid some of those unless I feel like they're really important, that there's really vital information in it. And this Terror Storm one is kind of along those lines. It's I can't say the name of the organization because YouTube censors certain things. But if you've watched any of my previous videos, you know who I'm talking about. And I feel like for a long time he was kind of low budget. He was kind of just making his way. He started out as a radio program, and then so he's just kind of what self-sustaining, and then as time progressed, he had people get involved, started selling some products that he believes in, started making more money. I think once the whole Trump campaign kicked off, and he was tied in with that, he really caught fire and started making money. But some of his early documentaries, they just don't have the production value. It's a lot of it is just a handheld camera and just interviews and things like that. But there's great information in those. After Terror Storm, we're going to get into some of the better ones. It's kind of, and you'll be able to see the drastic change in production value. And I'm assuming that's because then he had the budget to make really good quality movies, to use better cameras, better graphics, get a graphics team involved, things like that, instead of it just being a handheld camera and videos of him in studio. But the information contained in his stuff is phenomenal, and if you're not a fan of his show, just because of some of the ranting he can do, and honestly, one of the, I would say, not a turnoff, but one of the, and it's not even a negative. It's just one of the unfortunate things is that a lot of times on his show, he's spouting so much information that's on such a high level. Like, if you're just coming into this stuff, if you're just starting to learn about the geopolitical conspiracy in the world, and you get into and you start listening to a lot of it's going to go way over your head. A lot of it's going to be information overload. I actually reached out to him a couple times, and I was like, hey, is there any way you can create a systematized Kind of like what we're doing here with this developing a proper worldview. Is there any way you could create a systematized plan, like a learning plan of A to Z? Because when you start talking about Project Bluebeam and HARP technology and just getting into some of the really, if you're not prepared for it, it's going to be really difficult to believe. It's going to sound insane, and or it's going to sound like a foreign language. You're just not going to be able to pick up on what's going on. I suppose it'd be like if you're just a high school student and you walk into a college class on advanced calculus. You're not going to understand what's going on. You have to learn step by step. There's things you have to learn, algebra. You have to learn geometry, before you can start getting into that stuff. Otherwise, it's not going to make any sense. And so that's really kind of what spurred me on to do this, because the information is just so immense. The conspiracy is so massive. I mean, realistically, when we look at this is how would you say it? For all of human history, this has been being played out. Since the beginning of time, since creation, it's been God versus Satan, and Satan has been laying a plan, a scheme to overthrow God and to persecute his people and to be worshipped as God. That's Lucifer's goal, is to place himself as God. And so this whole scheme has been playing out throughout human history. And so there's so much information because it's come in so many different forms, and it's advanced step by step. It started in the garden, and then Babylon and Nimrod, and then the mystery religions of Egypt and Babylon, and then moved into things like, it started creeping in through Roman Catholicism, and then Rosicrucians and the Knights Templars, and then Freemasonry, and then Illuminism, and then all the various occult offsprings from the Jesuit Society, Ignatius Loyola and the Jesuit Society, and then branching out into like Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormonism, Scientology, plus all the false religions. There's so many different angles and so many different aspects that it can be very, very overwhelming to sit back and try to take this all in as a whole. But when you understand the foundation that this is biblical, that God told us this would happen. God has told us that Satan is the god of this world, lowercase g. He's the ruler, the prince of this world, the prince of darkness. He controls. The kingdoms of the world belong to him, and he gives them to whomever he wishes. So when you understand that this is a biblical conspiracy, a satanic attempt to overthrow God and to persecute God's people, and then you understand that it's moving towards total dictatorship, that Satan wants complete control of all aspects of society and life. That's the overarching goal. And so all these different angles, whether you're looking at the Jesuit conspiracy, or you're looking into the Federal Reserve, or you're looking into Freemasonry, or you're looking into Scientology, or whatever it is, the aim, and that's why the pyramid is like a perfect symbol for them to use, because it's all, whatever angle you're on, whatever side of that pyramid you're on, it's moving towards a peak, it's moving towards a common goal. And that's on the back of our dollar bill, that pyramid with the all-seeing eye of Lucifer, the all-seeing eye of Horus, and underneath it says Novus Ordo Seclorum, New Order of the Ages, New World Order. That's the goal. And so no matter which side you're coming at, if you're coming at it from the religious aspect through all the false religions, if you're coming at it through the financial aspect with all the central banks, if you're coming at it from the occult side, the Freemasonry, the Illuminism, if you're coming at it from the political, military, industrial arm, the goals are the same. If you're coming at it from a corporate angle, the goal is Luciferianism. The goal is Lucifer at the top. And so, wow, I got way off target there from what I wanted to say. My original point was, some of these documentaries can be hard to watch just because of how boring they are or how poorly produced they are. But we're trying to work through them, and like I say, I feel like a lot of them offer good information. If they're not worth the time, if they're kind of iffy, I skip them. There's a lot of documentaries on my list that we haven't done, and there's a lot more that we won't do. In totality, there's probably, I don't know, I've probably watched 500 documentaries maybe. And we're probably looking at going through 250 of them. Maybe. I don't know, whatever the Lord wills, but maybe it's not that much. Maybe. I mean, we do have a long. We're at part 85, and we're not even halfway. We've got a long ways to go. So I'll try to skip over the boring ones and just present the good ones. But then I'm going to reference those boring ones so that if you want additional information, you can go back and check them out. And I've done that several times throughout these videos. I've referenced ones that we have not done that you can go back and watch. I'm going to do that again. If you're new, or if you just happen to be catching this randomly, again, I'm going to give the caveat, or whatever you would call it, and tell you to go back and watch these in order. Don't just jump into the middle of it. It's going to be information overload, and we're probably talking about topics like implantable chips and martial law that can be a bit hard to hear. We're not into the deep stuff. Once we start getting into the occultism, a lot of people, if you were to just jump into that head first, would be turned off. But if you build up to it, if you learn everything preceding that, it makes total sense. If you understand, okay, the Bible says that the kings and the rulers of this earth plot and plan against Christ and against his people, and you understand that the devil's the god of this world and that he gives kingdoms, whether that's financial kingdom, corporate kingdoms, political kingdoms, music industry kingdoms, movie industry kingdoms, whatever it is, they belong to him. He gives them to whomever he wishes. And we saw how he attempted to get Jesus to accept it. He wanted Jesus' worship. And he does the same thing. The devil, he's acting in the same way. His schemes just get a little bit more technical and more advanced, but the end goal is always the same. He wants worship. And so he gets people to worship him through the occult arm of this. If you're coming up in Mormonism, the average Mormon has no idea what's going on at the top levels. If you go into a Mormon temple, there's sections you can't enter unless you're advanced in their cult. Scientology has secrets that you can't learn. Freemasonry has levels or degrees that you can't. They have information not available to the novices. You have to earn that. And as you work your way up, what they do is they influence you, or a more offensive way to say would be brainwash, but people don't like to think of themselves as brainwashed. What it is they get you used to an idea. Like Freemasonry will tell you on the bottom level, yeah, we worship God. We worship the creator of the universe. The what do they call him? The Gato, the great architect of the universe. And so you can go into that, and a Christian without discernment, or a Christian in name only, is going to have their guard down. Oh, these are good people that just worship God. And then you advance a little bit, and they tell you, hey, Christianity is not the only truth. They have some of it, but so does Islam, so does Hinduism, so does Judaism. I think Judaism and Islam, because they're monotheistic, so I think those are the ones they focus on. They tell you they all have some of the truth. Man has corrupted it. Man has messed it up over the years. And every step you go up, they're testing you to see if you're going to be able to accept these things. If you show any resistance, if you're born again and you say, no, there's only one God and his son, Jesus Christ, well, you're simply not going to advance anymore. You're just not going to get to the next levels. You're not worthy to receive the information. And so there's tests they'll give you all along the way, mysteries and riddles and things like that they'll give you, in books to read that slowly corrupt you and slowly get you used to the idea. Oh, the Bible has corruptions, and if you just go, oh, maybe that's true. Well, okay, so he's malleable. He's we might be able to mold this one. He's open to that idea. But if you reject that idea outright, they're like, oh, okay, he's a closed-minded fanatic. We can't get nowhere with him. But if you accept that, and then they go, oh, hey, and Islam has some of the truth too, and so does Judaism. Remember, they're all children of Abraham. They all got a piece of it, and you go, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And you move up, and then they go, Jesus isn't really his name. It's something else. It's and you accept that, and then they go, God has a hidden name that's not revealed in Judaism, Islam, or Christianity. They all changed it to fit their own idea, but there's a real name. And if you seek that out and find it, you're worthy. And then you learn, oh, it's Jabulon, which is this hybrid of Yahweh, Baal, Baal, and An, which I think is the Jewish way to say Osiris, if I'm remembering correctly, or the Egyptian god. I can't remember exactly, but it's Yahweh, Baal, and An, and combined to Jabulon. And then if you accept that, okay, well, you're in full now. And then in Morals and Dogma, which is kind of like the textbook for Freemasonry, it's revealed that once you reach that 32nd degree, then you learn that the real name of God is Lucifer. And like a person who just walks in off the street is going to be like, whoa, Lucifer worship? But they condition you. Remember, Jesus isn't his real name. Jesus, who is the light? They're always searching for the light. And, the scriptures say Jesus is the light. Okay. And Lucifer just means light bearer. Who is it that bears the light? Well, Jesus bears the light. So Lucifer's just another name for Jesus. Lucifer's his real name. And because they've been brought up doubting and becoming skeptical, they accept that at those 32nd degrees and above. 32nd and 33rd degree, they're full-on Lucifer worshippers. They have now worshipped Satan. They now believe Satan's the good guy. Satan in the garden just wanted to free man. He wanted to give man free will. He wanted to allow man to explore ideas and to have knowledge and freedom and eventually evolve into a godhood like Mormonism teaches. So all these different cults, they all aim towards that same goal: Luciferianism, Satanism, the worship of the devil. And man, I got way off topic again. I'm sorry about that. A lot of times I'm in these intros, I'm just repeating the same things. I'm just going where my mind goes, so forgive me for that. But I did want to go back and touch. So part one, for those that are new, we laid out the gospel because again, this is a biblical conspiracy. This isn't made up. This isn't fanatical. This is reality. The scriptures tell us about this. The scriptures have told us to watch out for this, to be on guard. In the end times, Revelation tells us there's going to be a beast, which is a kingdom. That's defined in the book of Daniel. A beast in prophecy, a vision of a beast is a vision of a kingdom. And so there's going to be a kingdom that encompasses the whole world, free and bond, slave and rich and poor, everybody. Young, old, everybody's going to be required to be in this kingdom and to show allegiance to it by taking a mark in the hand or in the forehead. That's why there's so much attention on this implantable microchip, especially when governments are open, and governments and businesses and banking are openly talking about using implantable chips for financial purposes, for banking purposes, not just for tracking. And the Bible says that this beast system will require everybody to take the mark in order to buy or sell, to participate in the economy. So it's a biblical conspiracy that we're looking into. The fact that once you learn this, once you hear about this beast kingdom, and you understand that the world belongs to the devil and he gives it to whom he will, and you understand that the kings and rulers of this world rebel against Christ and against his people, once you understand that foundation, and then you start listening to the politicians, you start listening to the CEOs, you start listening to the bankers, you start listening to the things they say, and you hear them talking about new world order. You hear them talking about ending national sovereignty, no borders, just a one world nation. You hear them talking about implantable chips. It makes you go, oh man, that sure does sound a lot like what I'm reading in the Bible. So in part one of the gospel, we looked at the Way of the Master series, and there's a lot more that we did not. I think we went through maybe 4 or 5 episodes. There's whole seasons of that you should watch, and then there's also specials that they did where they visited different places in Europe, like Luxembourg, Amsterdam, Prague. And then at the end of this, we might go back and watch some of these. Ray Comfort, who's the guy who does The Way of the Master, he also has short little documentaries that are amazing, usually focused on one particular subject. Like he's got The Atheist Delusion, 180, which is about abortion, Audacity, I can't remember what that one's about, The Fool, Evolution versus God, so on and so forth. So at the end, we may go back and look at those. It'll be a long time from now. So feel free to go ahead and watch those on your own. I think you should. They're amazing. Part 2, we looked into the evolution lie that the devil uses to discredit God, he uses to discredit the scriptures. And we looked at the Kent Hovind creation seminar. We also looked at a couple of great documentaries, Unlocking the Mysteries of Life, Icons of Evolution, God of Wonders, Creatures That Defy Evolution, and Expelled. But you can also go look at Answers in Genesis. They have a lot of documentaries, usually little short ones. And they're usually on specific topics, like they got Heaven and Earth, Death, Suffering, and Playing God, The God of Suffering, Always Ready, Already Gone. We may look at that one when we get to the school part of our... I gotta mark that. And then part 3, we looked at the American Empire and how America's really the driving force behind this New World Order system, behind this world government empire. And we looked at Megiddo, parts 1 and 2, The Secret Mysteries of America's Beginnings, Riddles in Stone, Eye of the Phoenix, The Hidden Faith of Our Founding Fathers. You can also go watch on your own G. Edward Griffin's 6-part documentary called Hidden Agenda. We watched Freedom to Fascism, and then you can watch, there's a 2-part documentary called Agenda. Part 1's called Grinding America Down. Part 2's called Master of Deceit. And then there's another one called There's No Place to Utopia. And then part 4, we looked at the 9/11 conspiracy, which, I could be wrong about this, but to me it was kind of a jumping off point for the New World Order to speed up. It's been moving along slowly, and there's usually key events that bring it forward in massive steps. World War II and the formation of the United Nations, and then 9/11 I think was one of those big things too. So we look at that conspiracy. We looked at Loose Change and 9/11 Mysteries and Road to Tyranny. There's a ton of documentaries you can watch on that. The Loose Change we watched was the 2nd edition. There's 3 other editions you can watch. 9/11 in Plain Sight, Martial Law 9/11, Reopen 9/11, Beyond Treason, Aftermath, The Great Conspiracy, and 9/11 The Great Illusion. And then part 5 was Martial Law. We watched Police State Rise of FEMA, which was the 4th edition of that. You can go back and watch the other 3, Police State 2000, Police State 2, and Police State 3. We watched Camp FEMA, and then we watched Camp FEMA 2, The Enemy of the State. You can also go back and watch America Destroyed by Design, Gulag USA, and American Dictators. And then we skipped a section which is just showing like government cover-ups, just because it's not really pertinent to the New World Order, but it shows how the corrupt system works and how evil they are and how they hide things. On things like Waco, Texas, and the Oklahoma City bombing, and JFK, and the secret wars of the CIA, and things like that. And then here we are in part 6, New World Order. We skipped a documentary just because I find it kind of boring, and most of the information contained is repeated in some of these other documentaries that we watch. But if you want to go back and watch, it's called World Systems, part 1 and part 2. And then we watched Matrix of Evil, and now we're in Terror Storm. And then, like I say, after this, the production value really picks up. We've got Endgame, Obama Deception, Fall of the Republic, Invisible Empire, Shadow Government. Those are all phenomenal documentaries. Really, really well made. And then we've got Dark Clouds over Eberron, I think is how you say it. New World Order, Blueprint of Madmen, Beginner's Guide to the New World Order and Satan's New World Order. And then in part 7, we're going to look at the occult foundations. Part 8, we're going to look at the media cover-up. Part 9, we're going to look at the banking system. Part 10, we're going to look at population control and so the various means that they use to do that. And then part 11, we're going to get into the Bible version issue. Part 12, we're going to look at the pre-tribulation rapture error. Excuse me. Part 13, we're going to look at the end times. And then we'll have a bonus section where we kind of just go back and watch some other ones. Yeah, so I know that's a really long introduction, and I apologize about that. And again, if you're this far into it, I feel like, I probably shouldn't just ramble on like this because you've heard all this before. I do this mainly because if you're just jumping in and catching this and just randomly, I want you to understand why it's important to go back. And if you don't want to watch me, you can go and look up all those documentaries and watch them on your own. I think you can still find most of them online. They're free. Almost every one of those is free, I think. The ones that aren't, I've reached out to the producers and in regards to copyright and asked them for permission. I've gotten that. If I haven't gotten it, we'll try to avoid. I think I've gotten it on most of them, but yeah. Do I have anything else to say? It's really long-winded, but so anyways, if you're watching this on YouTube, this is going to be the point where it cuts off, and you're going to want to jump over onto Rumble and watch the rest of this. I feel like I got a snitch on my YouTube channel. Somebody that's offended by words. It's so ridiculous that we live in this type of world where they're censoring ideas, education. Like, you're supposed to have freedom of ideas, even a ridiculous idea. I should trust you enough to be able to discern and do your own research and either reject or accept something. If I'm censoring something, it's because I'm afraid of it, which gives a lot of credence to the validity of it. They don't censor the National Enquirer. Because they just expect people to know, oh, this is satire, this is ridiculous, this is foolish. Even though I've seen them try to censor the Babylon Bee before, that's just ridiculous. It's a satirical newspaper. Why would you censor that? But it's the world we live in now. And like I say, I think I do have a snitch on my channel because they're censoring things from years ago, and it's like, how would that even come up unless somebody's actively going through all my old videos and trying to find something offensive or one of their banned keywords. There's certain things you can't even say. They'll say, oh, that's whatever. Yeah, I'm even hesitating to say the phrases, but anyways, so if you're watching on YouTube, I'll try to remember to put the link for Rumble down in the description. Otherwise, just go over to Rumble. It works just like YouTube. It's a little less user friendly, but they got free speech over there, and just look for my channel, King Ram 417, and it's the same username as on YouTube. And without further ado, let's jump into Terror Storm.